Hey gang, I have sharpened so many knives on this channel. I've sharpened on the most high-end fixed angle systems. I've sharpened on advanced mechanical systems. And then I've sharpened knives on toilets and on the sides of windows. So in this film, I'm going to go from the worst all the way through to the best way that you can sharpen your knives, taking into account ease of use, versatility, and of course, end result. So we're going to get into the weeds with some really crap ones first. We're going to work our way up to the best ones. Before we get started, I'm going to give a nod to a couple of god tier, almost indispensable sharpening bits of kit that everyone who's going to sharpen a knife, I think, needs. So first of all, pretty basic, a leather strop. It's hard to say who or where to get your strop from. You might make it yourself. All I would suggest is nice and wide, and then two different types of leather, the suede soft side on one, and then the shiny on the other. Then you get some compounds or some rouges or something. I like the diamond emulsions myself. And then you put one on one side, one on the other side, and try and keep those regular. This will finish off all of your edges. And even if your sharpening system is wanting a little bit, you will absolutely accelerate your edge success with a good leather strop. Spare no expense, not hugely expensive anyway. And even these emulsions, they are a bit pricey, but they last for so long. A little goes a long, long way. So good leather strop, good emulsions, good rouge, good compound. This is surely not controversial. And next up, product-wise, can't help but spruik once again the Worksharp guided field sharpener. I am not paid by Worksharp, but I always say this is an essential bit of kit to teach you the fundamentals of sharpening, but it's also big enough and full-featured enough to actually sharpen a full pocket knife from dull to sharp, getting a really good edge for about $50 US, 70, 80 Australian dollars. Really well-designed piece of kit. I've not met many people who don't love this, so again, not a controversial thing to say. It's not going to be the highest end edge, but in terms of an all-around product, this is the one I always suggest, always recommend, the Worksharp Guided Field Sharpener. But now, let's start with the crap stuff. The worst way you can sharpen your knife is on a ceramic or a carbide V pull-through sharpener. The ones with the little V's that you rest the knife on and yank the knife through. These will at best put a ho-hum edge on a knife that will not last very long because it's going to put it on as a fat V angle. It's going to re-sculpt that edge. It's going to undo any good sharpening you may have had the fundamentals of already, and you're going to have to over sharpen this, correct the damage it's done. I can only think of very few situations where you might be tempted to use a pull-through sharpener on your knife, and it would be like end of the world type thing where your knife is basically butter dull and you need it to cut into something that it wasn't otherwise cutting. That edge will do, I guess, the job, but it will be at the cost of the life of the knife. And in like a normal modern scenario, these are the worst way you can sharpen a knife. And I haven't had a good one. I've never come across one that I've actually preferred to use. Smith's, Lansky's, Edge Masters, they're all about the same. They all damage your edge more than they hone them. No good. Worksharp do one that is still not that great, but if you had to get one, if you were 100% certain on it, that you really wanted one, this at least does a kind of a convex cut. It's still a cut, it's still more steel than you want to remove, it's still not as effective as any of the following systems. They're about the same price, so bottom tier is all these pull-through sharpeners, no good, especially the V carbide ones, just steer clear of them. The next worst way you can sharpen your knife is by holding your knife and trying to reason with it. Just asking the knife to get sharp again. So this won't do anything to the edge of the knife. The knife is not sentient, it can't understand you, but at least it doesn't damage the edge. The edge after this process will be the same as the edge was before you started. So it doesn't detract from the overall longevity and quality of the knife. So it is slightly better than a carbide pull-through sharpener. The next worst, or I guess the next best one, is the ceramic wheel style pull-through sharpeners. Because the wheels are ceramic, they're a little bit gentler on the edge. They still cut a weird sort of horizontal channel in the apex of the knife. Not great. They will get a slightly better edge. Often they have a sequence of wheels. The kitchen knife sharpeners sometimes can work a little bit, but the edges they're going to put on are going to be far from spectacular, far from good even, and overall, for the amount of money you're spending, you can buy a more informed purchase later up the list for about the same price and get an actual good result. So we'll whiz past all this sort of thing and get to the good stuff eventually. The next best way you can sharpen a knife is from an improvised ceramic surface. I was only half joking about the toilet. The edge of the edge of the car window, it's rough glass, the bottom of a coffee mug, like your grandpa will be happy to show you, I've got no doubt. You can get the beginnings of a good edge on any rough ceramic surface. Fix the bottom of a coffee mug upside down. As long as your angle is consistent, you will be able to sharpen. And if you're going to a strop next, you might actually be able to get a half decent edge. I've done it in the past, car windows, toilets, everything. It is possible. It is far from ideal though, but it is better than the previous methods. Alrighty, so those are all the things I probably wouldn't recommend out of the way. Next thing we're going to move up to are the pocket sharpening gadgets. So pocket sharpening gadgets are things with legitimate materials. They're just arranged in a way that the form really does hinder the practicality of the tools. So things like this Falcon F3, F3C or FC3, FS3 sharpening, as cool as it is, button launching, very cool, but it's just such a small piece of, arguably good diamond coated, good ceramic, no worries. The same with this little Worksharp tool here. It's got a bit of diamond, it's got a bit of ceramic. It will sharpen a knife. It is possible to sharpen knives on all these things and get good edges, but the form factor is so small that it's way fiddlier than you would like it to be. These are not for even on-the-go use, in my opinion. These are for kits, these are for absolute emergencies. These are for like the interest's sake if you're a bit of a collector. They technically do work, so they're not bad. I wouldn't go as far as to say any of these things are bad, but the workable amounts of abrasives on them are so small that they're going to be a little bit too tricky to use to be preferable to anything above them on this list. The best one probably is this little Worksharp pocket sharpener, but again, it's getting quite big. And pocket, I would wonder whether you would go the trouble of keeping this in your pocket when there are better, larger pocket stones further up the chart. Sitting just above these is, and I need to address it, the Falcon DC3 and the DC4. These are good quality Falcon stones, but they are a little bit too small for me. I would suggest, if you're in love with this idea, get the DC53. It's a more full-size 8-inch stone. It's got the same features as the DC3 and the DC4, but they're just more practicable, more useful, and you can still put them in a pocket if you want. But the DC3, whilst probably a leg up from the ones I was just talking about, is still a little bit too small for me to ever prefer to use. So next up, we're going to take a brief incline into the slightly weirder, and we're going to talk about the rolling sharpeners. So the rolling sharpeners are not bad. As long as you get one from a reputable company that has good abrasives, as long as the abrasives work and don't fall off straight away, these sharpeners, they do work, but on certain knives only. They're not too fond of knives with thicker spines. They're not too fond of knives with sort of handles that almost impede on the blade and the path the stone needs to take on the blade. They are good at specific types of kitchen knives. They're quite good at specific types of kitchen knives. But everything else, they can be a little bit too weak on the magnets or the unstable on the holding. And overall, if you've got knives that these fit exactly and you don't want to learn any other method of sharpening, they will actually get good to great edges on your knives. But in terms of the usability of them, they're much more than this very specific use cases. They're going to sit pretty far down the list. So this is where they're staying. Moving above this are good sized pocket stones. So these are the pocket stones in about the 6-inch variation. So stuff like the DMT diafold, stuff like the Spyderco double stuff. These guys here, it's got about the same amount of stone as your Worksharp, but without all the other features. So they're sitting a little bit further down the list. You're going to need a bit of skill to use these. You're going to have to be able to be happy with your angles, happy with locking your wrists. You're going to have to be using pretty much good freehand techniques on smaller stones. So it is harder. That's why they're further down the list. These are quality abrasives though. This is about as small as I would go to say this could be where your system actually starts. This could be almost all you need if all you own is small pocket knives. DMT stones, time-tested abrasives. There's lots of other companies. I've got a Cold Steel, one of these. Lots of other companies brand Chinese stones and sell them with their brands on it and things. I would go for a company like DMT where you can set your watch to the quality of their abrasives. DMT are time-proven brands, so I'd be happy with them. Spyderco, Worksharp, get things from those sort of companies, not so bad. The Spyderco has CBN and ceramic on it. This is the double stuff. It's got an edge for doing serrations. Overall, this is a pretty high quality stone as well, a bit on the expensive side. And again, if you are going to be doing freehand sharpening, the use cases are way lower than having just bench stones. So whilst these are quality, and I think they are good, they're certainly in the middle of the list at the very least. So overall, I don't not recommend them, but as you go further up the list, I think you'll understand why they're sitting where they're sitting. Alrighty, so this next level are the basic angle assisting systems. So things like the Spyderco Sharpener. Sharpener is a rod system where you slide the knife down the rods. This is great for teaching you sharpening. It's great for knives with curved bellies and unusual blade shapes. You can really trace it really effortlessly and easily, and the system holds everything in place for you. As long as you are able to go down easily enough, it's fine. All it is doing though, it's putting a micro bevel on your edges. Usually, unless you are going to also cant your own hand and try and do a full apex, there's just a bit of skill involved if you want to do any more than putting good, but still micro bevels on your knives. The rod abrasive quality is fine. They do CBN, they do ceramics, all sorts. You need to invest a little bit in one of these systems to get all the good stones though, and so I would wonder why you would choose this and not a more sort of slightly advanced fixed angled system. So in terms of other fixed angled systems that are sitting about this category, you've got the Lansky system, very minute, very small, little stones. The angle guides only has a few options. It's got 4 slots in it, and the rod sort of moves around a bit. It's not as precise as some of the later ones, and it is very small, minute. Lots more passes with the smaller stones you're going to be needing to take. So overall, the Lansky is a good starter system for a fixed angled system. Good if you don't want to spend too much money, and they do have good abrasives. Lansky makes good stuff, good abrasives. It's all very small or very little. So just something to be aware of. Definitely good. Everything in this list from this point onwards, and even from the previous couple of mentions, is all good stuff. It's just the order of preference from this point onwards. Next, we have the basic powered Worksharp. So Worksharp do a couple of basic powered ones. They do one just for kitchen knives. They do your classic Worksharp. These are good for really new users to get really basic sort of convex edges on their knives. But there's a bit of a caveat. You also need to have a steady hand, and you need to practice a few times on some lesser blades, because these, as with all powered systems, can chew your blades up if you're not careful. They can round your tips off if you're not careful. If you use them properly, they won't, but there's a learning curve. But once you've learned it, once you spent half an hour learning it, even a newbie can sharpen everything in his house pretty much with one of these and get good solid edges, all convex edges though, good solid edges on basically everything that needs sharp in his house. There are better ones of this, but anything that is kind of cassette driven, where you put it in a locked angled cassette, is about this level in my opinion. There's a lot better for it, but also these are fairly cost effective as well, and you can definitely do some entry level stuff with them that's going to be better than probably what you could do mostly with your free hands, especially if you're newer at sharpening. First really sharp edges I had as a knife fan was with the Worksharp. Now above this one is the Worksharp Ken Onion with the cassette. So the Ken Onion cassette has much more dial-in, high angle features and just more refinement to it. The belts are wider, so it's easy to track what's going on with them, and they're out and there's less obscured by sort of the angle covered cassettes. So the Worksharp Ken Onion is still, in my opinion, not the best without the blade grinder. It's still, something that's going to put good edges on, but there's always that factor of you have to watch your tips, you have to make sure you're not chewing up too much. But if you at least have it set on the Ken Onion Worksharp, you can dial your speed way back, have it going slowly, have it so it's much safer. You're not going to chew big chunks out of your edge, especially if you're using like a softer steel. So next, as we're moving up, we're looking at the more basic fixed angled systems. So this is like, I know we mentioned the Lansky before, that was a level below these ones I'm talking about now. So this is the Worksharp Precision Adjust. This is the basic KME. These are all the ones with the right angles set in them and the stability of them that perhaps the Lansky lacks, but with the smaller stones still. With these systems, having bigger stones means you sharpen for less time, means you cut quicker, means the job is done sooner, and the edges are great sooner if you are really fussing over your edges. So these ones are amazing for starting on, especially the Worksharp because it's quite cheap. You can, for about $150 to $180 or so, get one of these Worksharps, and time permitting, get the amazing edges that you would expect from the later ones. It's just it takes longer because the stones are smaller. And there isn't quite the variability of the stones. They're all sort of set into the exact Worksharp sort of held stone that comes with the machine. And in fact, when you buy the expander system, you just get a bunch of like other little arms that you twist around. So it's all very like homogenized by Worksharp. So there isn't that sort of, like some of the other systems, you can go and order Vinev stones and put them on. There isn't any user modifiability to it. So it's great, but it's definitely not in the upper tier of the fixed angle sharpening systems. And as for the KME, it's my baby, it's my first. It's the one that got me into like really high-end edges. It's fantastic. It's just been so far eclipsed by the newer KME, the TS Prof, just because the stones are longer, everything is more stable on the newer models, and it's sitting at a very respectable place in this list, but it has just been so far improved on by many, many other things. Next, we're looking at a limited set of either stones or CBN plates or diamond plates. This is if you just get maybe a single double CBN plate like this one from Spyderco. This will do an edge from dull to sharp, no worries. Say if you get like a pair of, what have I got here? The Spyderco stones. You know, maybe these together, this is what I basically started on, setting the edge on these, then sharpening on these. You know, they don't do everything perfectly, but really well made stuff. Sadly, I don't think Spyderco are making these anymore, but you could absolutely sharpen 90% of things on here really, really well. If you're using your more high-end steels, you want to have some diamonds to at least do your edge stabilizing and edge setting, because those really high-end, high carbide steels, they struggle a little bit on the plain ceramics. So just that to say for sure. Later on, I will talk more about freehand sharpening, but for your entry-level freehand stuff, it sits at about this level on the list. That is just getting your 1 stone or your 2 stone set and just really practicing really, really well. So it sits about here. And then on that line of thought is this system here from Worksharp. This is the Worksharp bench stone system. This is fantastic. This is a great way to learn. If this does feel a bit small for you, this is a great way to learn the fundamentals of freehand sharpening. This is what taught me freehand sharpening. Eventually, these guides here feel a bit like training wheels and you want to get rid of them and move on to other things, but sharpen, you know, a few dozen knives on this and you will be, just like I was, really keen and feel really ready to get moving on and doing your own angles and your own sort of freehand sharpening. This has got 3 different grits, really simple. So it's got 400, 600 and the ceramic, really, really well done. Solid, and it also takes away the need to bend your elbow because the base kind of bends the elbow for you and does the belly part. So the knife moves across the base and the base moves down to accommodate the knife belly tracking. It's a really, really clever idea. And initially I didn't even realize that's what it was for. So it was a bit embarrassing, but you can lock it in and make it so it doesn't do that. But if you unlock it, as you push the belly down, it follows it. This makes a slight movement that allows the belly to get the same kind of coverage. So this is such an excellent beginner tool. And while I don't use it anymore, it's really, really good to start with. And simply because it's not portable, I do prefer this guy to it, but really, really excellent. And I would certainly suggest trying this out if you're new to it all. Alrighty, before we depart into what I think are the best of the best, I'm going to talk about the Tormek. So this might be a bit controversial. Some guys think the Tormek is the best thing ever. And I can see why. I have just never had a level of comfort with the Tormek that I would really choose it over a lot of these things. I have tried so hard with the Tormek. And I have got good results in the past. And you can really use a Tormek. It's such a versatile thing, but it's very expensive. And you need different guides for basically every sort of thing you want to do on it. It's a slow spinning water-cooled wheel, which is a really valuable thing to have. And even if you're not going to use it as your primary, it's an amazing thing for me to have in my shed. I use it for random stuff all the time, and it's got a really good powered stropping wheel on it. It's low RPM, so it's not going to do any damage to anything, but all I've found is that there's a real learning curve to it, and I've put smiles on knives that I wish didn't have them afterwards. Yeah, and I've probably worn my stone down a little bit quick, but this is me, and this is where my experience may vary. I know knife makers that almost use the Blackstone Tormek to make half of their knife. It's obviously super high capability, but just for me and my uses, I prefer, there's other power systems I prefer, and I prefer going a little bit slower with manual fixed angle systems. You can dial in a Tormek, do some amazing work in it. I'm super aware of it. That's why it's very high on this list, but I certainly prefer the systems I'm going to talk about in a second to the Tormek, and I don't think that's going to change in the future really. Alrighty, so these are the best ones from this point onwards. These are like the S tier amazing resources for sharpening. So I'm going to start with the Worksharp Ken Onion Blade Grinder. So this guy here, very, very customizable. It's here because you can sharpen everything in your house with this. and you can dial it down, sharpen slow, you can sharpen it, you can really turn it up, and you can almost make knives with this thing if you do proper stock removal with it. The belts are smaller, obviously, than standard, belt sander belts, but really, really versatile tool. In my experience, the convex edges this puts on are less sharp than the edges I'll talk about afterwards, but for something that does it fast, and also with the benefit of, a bit like the Sharpmaker before, you can sharpen knives with curvy bellies. You can sharpen knives of strange shapes. You can sharpen tantos so easily on this. You just go up to a point and stop, and then turn it around. Such a good system. Expensive, yes, but this will sharpen everything in your house. It'll sharpen your secateurs, it'll sharpen your scissors, it'll sharpen everything, and they've got great resources on how to use it. Yep, pricey bit of kit, and you will be buying belts and things like that. I would almost recommend this to anyone who just has a passing interest in sharpening, and you could almost stop at this. You'll probably find that easier to use than a lot of the other things I've talked about. It's very intuitive. It's quite obvious when you look at it what's to be done with it. So overall, definitely top tier stuff. Next, we're looking at this tier is shared between two types of sharpening, and they are both as good, in my opinion, as one another. Now, fixed angle sharpening systems, the high-end ones. Now, I know for certain the high-end ones are the TS Prof, the Cadet, the Recruit. There is the Worksharp Professional Pro Adjust, like the one with the bigger stones. And then there is the KME, the new KME. All three of these are amazing. I haven't used them, but I'm fairly certain that the Hapstone and the Wicked Edge are about the same. All these systems with good quality abrasives, held onto rods with dialing angles, they're all ways of getting the best possible edges. You're only limited really by the stones you're using. KME, I would suggest, has the best stones and the best sort of film kits, the best extended kit to get the best possible edge. That's my opinion, I think KME. Some people say TS Prof because they can order their own stones, shop and pick the ones that they exactly know are the best, so that's fair enough too. And the Workshop has their own sort of proprietary stuff, but still can accommodate other stones as well. Workshop is probably the simplest to set up and use. The KME probably has the best abrasives, and the Tormek is easily the sturdiest. So it's really up to you which one of those sounds the best to you. Wicked Edge and Hapstone, I can't say for certain which is where they sit in those sort of in that little mini tier, but I've been told, and I have no reason to doubt that they are not great as well. Lastly though, the thing that I enjoy the most, although I cannot get results as good yet as on the fixed angled systems, is a good series of bench stones. So my Shapton Kuramakus, for example. Love these. 320, 1000, 5000, with the extras of the Rockstar 500 and the Shapton Glass 2000 and 8000 with some water on them, and then with a leather strap afterwards. Great results, great performance, but also like it feels like a proper hobby. It feels like you're not just sharpening a knife. It feels like actually doing it, for me, a leisure activity. And to me, I rank it as the best way of sharpening a knife for that reason. Until you get really good, your results won't be like the fixed angled systems. They might not even be at the Worksharp Ken Onion blade grinder standard just yet, but they will get there. It's something that you learn, you're working on a skill. I like to put on a podcast, sharpen a large fixed blade or a kitchen knife on my series of stones, make a bit of an afternoon out of it. Really, really nice way to get a really nice edge at the end. Still practicing, still in progress. I got a really good edge on my Acrylic the other day. I think I showed that video already. That was really something, I'm getting there, I'm getting better and better. So it has that real incremental feeling. Every time I feel like I do it, I feel like I've done a better job than last time. So it's a really satisfying way of sharpening knives. And I'm going to say that this shares like the top best possible sharpening bit of kit with those other systems. That being said, cost is going to be something. To get a full series of these stones are all about $100 each. So, I'm looking at $600 worth of stones here. A bit of talent, maybe you can use half the stones and get a better result for $300. That's absolutely possible. Alex over at Outdoors 55, I reckon he does a Temu diamond stone and a couple of Kuramakos, and he could probably sharpen better than I could with my whole extended series. So this is really where it comes, like, you can save money by being better, but to get better, you might need to have the series anyway. So bit of a funny thing to weigh up there. But anyway, that is, to my knowledge, all the sharpening systems that I'm aware of, and how they virtually rank in sequence about worst through to the best. So hope you've enjoyed the video, the discussion, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.